Towers of Doom, ladies and gentlemen, as we are heading into the grand final between Gen.G and BALLISTIX. And over to the left side of the map, we have Gen.G with Saka on Deckard Kane, Reset on Liming, Rich on Sergeant Hammer, Kyoja on Blaze, and Tist on the front line with Muradin.
And in the red, it is BALLISTIX looking to earn that 3-time championship with Malfurion played by Magi, SDE on Thrall, Jung-Ha playing that Dahaka, Hooligan on Diablo, and last up here we have SC on Greymane.
The crowd already fairly behind. But the amazing thing about the crowd here in Korea is that they've always been chanting for both sides the entire tournament. There's an insane atmosphere here in the stadium, and at this point we're seeing the teams collide in the mid lane.
Bit of a wave clear advantage, at least for that first collision for Gen.G. Hooligan though, maybe one in threat when it comes to the rotation. Nice use there to be able to hit the snare, but Gen.G is the ones able to pull ahead, and that is a pretty significant advantage purely based on the fact that Hammer is not typically your 1-4 leader that you normally see. It's a 1-1-3 where she's just posted up and heavily protected.
And we talked a lot about Hooligan already. He's really the one that thrives on all of that momentum and the energy that the crowd provides. And we have to look towards him. A very emotional player, and he's going to try and set these plays up for his team. Also, when it comes to talent, Shadow's clarity, we've seen it a few times on Malfurion as an adjustment, and this is the case in this game as well. The perfect storm again for Muradin on the other side, and ambush for Sergeant Hammer, as Rich is going to try and get that chip damage against those structures.
Keep in mind that BALLISTIX has that top lane pressure really, really heavy as both these sappers are started, which that was what I was going to highlight. It leads to a very easy brush talk opportunity for Jung-Ha. He did end up committing to it very early. Great bait there by Rich, kind of feigning interest within that rotation. That's going to allow for a lot of damage there for Kyoja on that top lane. And as long as none of the sappers really get too much damage in, Gen.G has very calculated and very controlled kind of had an approach here to the early game.
And of course, with Sergeant Hammer taken in the last slot, this was a pick that BALLISTIX definitely had to see coming. So right now, they feel that with this draft, they have tools that they can use to take Hammer down and to make sure that Rich doesn't get too much momentum for the team. But Gen.G has looked nearly perfect throughout the tournament. They had a couple of games where they really brawled with opponents, but they didn't drop a single map yet, trying to pull the Dignitas performance here that we had the European team at the Western Clash.
The top lane here of this match has been such an interesting approach, even though we haven't given any interest to it. Blaze has never pushed into the Dahaka whatsoever, constantly letting him actually take the lane advantage. And I can't help but wonder, you know, if that's going to be a moment where Gen.G finds a way to abuse that information in the later stages. But for now, BALLISTIX doing their best to kind of thwart the efforts, while they are again gaining a lot of control towards that northern lane.
BALLISTIX is really heavily posed in the middle between the bot lane and the mid lane here, trying to also play with vision and make sure that Gen.G doesn't always know where exactly Diablo is, because he's going to be the one looking for an engage.
Oh my, that was beautiful.
What a great escape here by SC. Kyoja already charging up with the jet propulsion. The kill attempt here, if he hits the stun and Reset follows it up, then Greymane is in trouble. But what a great play here to escape and juke all of it. Yeah, if that was, you know, Reset just a pixel to the left, I don't think that escape actually ends up happening. Kyoja tried to get that channel. It's actually going to get interrupted. Or actually, no, it did not get interrupted. Gets the shots on top there. SC is looking to pick up the top right here. And it's a 4 versus 3 down below. BALLISTIX down a man for this bottom altar. And you gotta love the Dignitas spray. Getting Dignitas spray out here immediately. Also SDE with the completion here on the Echo of Elements has of course now the poke available to him, as we are seeing the team still way down through the bot lane for that additional altar. And this is really where the global can make all the difference if we're having that brush stalk attempt. But first of all, we're seeing Diablo make the engage on the Sergeant Hammer. Rich is rooted and barely gets out as Jung-Ha burrows in and creates more space so that Greymane can start the channel.
And this is going to allow BALLISTIX to be able to pick up 4 more shots and gain an advantage when looking at the core HP here. But experience pretty much dead even for the two teams. Neither one really eking too far ahead over one another, but I already am in awe at the amount of confidence we see with Rich on that Sergeant Hammer. That was, again, a disadvantage fight for him, and he's just like, I'm not moving siege mode. I am just going to stay here, put out as much damage as possible. Able to barely escape there that time, but as we kind of scale upward, I wonder if that's still going to be a surviving Rich. Hold up, Jet proposes to end up landing there. Hooligan, not able to kite away, ends up flipping the overpower in a bad spot. Tist throws down the Stormbolt, and they get the pick there. Hooligan ends up going down, and Gen.G find first blood.
Beautiful Stormbolt there from Tist, securing the kill making sure that there's no chance for him to move out. And we have another one as Muradin is able to take down Malfurion. Gen.G with the double kill here around level 8 in the game. And that sets BALLISTIX even farther back, since Rich can now, without any pressure on him, siege up in the bot lane and drop their front.
Yeah, that's a really big setback here for BALLISTIX, just because of, as you said, Rich's ability to get that siege in the downtime. It's just taking... Sergeant Hammer is a hero we don't know for its early game aggression, but she very much is one of the best early game punishers when you make that slight mistake. Kind of like old Illidan used to be. He can dodge the turrets, get the siege up for no reason. You get one kill, he gets a mile off of it, and that is what we see Rich doing there with the Sergeant Hammer. Sappers going to be at least attempted here once more. You see BALLISTIX questioning if they have the opportunity to get the invade, but at least for now they're going to back out here. 20 seconds until those top 2 ulters up. Yeah,
Tist is anchoring the play, and there's no way for BALLISTIX to really engage into it. They're not too far behind in experience yet, but of course Gen.G is angling towards level 10 at this point. With the ulters activating in another 5 seconds, we're going to very likely see an even trade when it comes to that second objective phase, but from then on it's all about the level 10 and what Gen.G can do with it.
It's likely going to be a lot of pressure towards that southern lane, I feel like, here. As you said, it's going to be the dead even swap there. Purely with the 10 advantage. It's not a big enough advantage for you to really, you know, kind of get the 5-man commitment and be like, well, we're taking this part of the battleground, but, you know, again, poking and prodding with the Sergeant Hammer is a realistic option. As a nice Stormbolt over the wall, will the Scroll Ceiling connect? Not quite there.
Great attempt though, really putting the pressure onto Magi again, and of course, Malfurion plays have become a lot more difficult, especially since the lack of Ice Block on level 13. Still a bit away from that, but even in that late game, or especially in that later stages of the match, we're gonna have Malfurion being a prime target for Gen.G. Now, level 10 abilities are definitely something where the entire dynamic might flip a little bit, since BALLISTIX has better tools to engage onto Sergeant Hammer or any hero that they can isolate. We've seen the impact that we had with Thrall for that squad, but can they pull it off again?
One deviation that we do have when looking at the heroics in this game to buy a little bit more peel, I feel like, for Rich on that Sergeant Hammer has got to be with the Lore NATO. You know, with the Sundering coming in from SDE, I don't know if it's realistic for a Stay a While and Listen to really kind of be that high impact play, likely going to get interrupted and just lead to a dead Decker Kane. So I like this, still providing the peel, but being more realistic about the circumstances of this battle.
Jonah there with an interesting burrow into the mid lane. They expected a fight and were hoping to get an engage, but that kind of backfired on them, and he had to immediately rotate up to the top. So that's a cooldown burned, at least for now, but definitely shows again that BALLISTIX is looking for these opportunities, especially now that they have level 10.
As you saw Rich using a clutch self-cleanse there. If that's a fraction of a second too late in the later stages, might be a dead Rich, but that's part of the reason Rich is one of the best players in the world. Hold up, though. Stormbolt will land, forcing the Nature's Cure there from Magi. Hooligan unable to find a flip. Gonna get zoned out by that Scroll Ceiling. He's in a tough position. Kyoja whiffs there when it comes to that jet propulsion. The Stormbolt will end up connecting. Sundering, splitting all of Gen.G. Rich trying to kite away, ends up throwing down the thrusters there, but look at that. Hooligan flipping it over and finding the kill.
The lightning breath here. They want to go for the second, and Rich is about to fall. Down he goes as we have a second kill provided by Greymane. BALLISTIX definitely not playing the shy game, but all of a sudden Hooligan himself in trouble, and he falls as Muradin moves in, but the counter kill Ming is down, and they're not stopping at that. Oh! They're going for the Dwarf, and they get him. Tist falls, and that's a quad kill.
Tist trying to get the Dwarf toss away and lands right into an entangling root, prepping another kill here. BALLISTIX starting out with massive fireworks here, and after picking up 2 more altars, a colossal lead when looking at core HP.
And I have to call something else out here. You talked about him already a bit earlier and how he provided those 2 kills. Tist on Muradin. That monster just completed his quest 7.5 minutes into the game. That is insane. For Muradin to get the Stormbolt quest after 7.5 minutes, that is just brutal, and he now gets that cooldown reduction, he gets the pierce, and him having that this early on makes him incredibly dangerous for BALLISTIX.
Yeah, it's going to prep up a lot of those kills in the later stages, being able to have that kind of pierce here. BALLISTIX, though, has that significant HP when looking at the core, and that's something that they are probably going to have to depend on as this game moves through, because I can't help but feel like eventually it's going to hit a threshold where we see Sergeant Hammer get the conversion over that bottom bell tower, and when that happens, it is a far more oppressive composition in favor of Gen.G than it is BALLISTIX. Yes, they have the Dahaka, but that has nothing to do with the 1-1-3 of a Sergeant Hammer holding that bottom bell tower.
Bot lane control and potential snowball on the side of Gen.G is definitely something for BALLISTIX to worry about, but I really love how we once again again saw Hooligans set up these kills at that bot lane. And it shows that they have the abilities to get these kills here. So BALLISTIX definitely not just sitting back and allowing Gen.G to run the show. They are angling 4 kills the entire time. Hooligan already waiting for it once more and thinking about diving in deep to help his team secure another kill.
20 seconds here on this altar with no commitment shown from the Blaze there. Kyocha not making the transition down quite yet. But this is going to be, I feel, very much a breaking point for either one of these teams because the momentum of experience is going to heavily break out after the skirmish. Great clear from SC to be able to get a little bit of experience advantage throughout mid. And Gen.G move up.
Is, by the way, only at 35 stacks on his soul, so he's definitely not as hit point heavy as he would like to be. Him falling earlier in the fight at the bottom left definitely hurt the team a bit, and right now he has to be very, very careful when he flips the switch here. Outside of that, Dehaka still pushing out the top lane. They're really trying to get the maximum value out of that global hero.
Gen.G still have such an effective zone out here without the fact that there we see the brush talk actually coming in. Jungha will end up landing the drag. It's going to get knocked back there by the Rich knockback, actually.
SC under pressure as Tist is jumping straight on him and trying to push him back here. Healing Static helping him, of course, too. There's so much interrupt potential. SC in particular, with his Echo of Elements, can just keep poking with the Lightning, but they decide to move back for now. Not really fighting the engage, and they're not able to break through the defense that Gen.G has set up around Hammer.
I think it's a very smart call for BALLISTIX, but only because they have been so successful with those early skirmishes and gaining so much on the XP of the core over Gen.G. But I feel like at some point they've got to be comfortable, willing to address this full 5-on-5 at the same talent tier. And you know, Sergeant Hammer is not a hero, again, that I feel like I look at and I go, I'm afraid of her 1 through 9. It's that definitely the later stages and the oppression she can supply there. So BALLISTIX, though I do understand the decision-making there to not want to risk that at that point in time, I don't think they have very many of those kind of opportunities left before Gen.G end up getting a win.
I mean, he really feels that they're also playing a lot around the hit point pool of Diablo, what I mentioned a bit earlier, that they really don't want to engage in a fight where he doesn't have the full stacks of souls, or at least close to that. Tist again with the Storm Bolts here, just hammering them in. He currently sits at 33 stacks on the quest. Just to keep you guys updated with Diablo, he's sitting at 47 souls.
And though it doesn't cost anything there, that's the second uncharacteristic missed jet propulsion from Kyocha in an interesting direction. And might be something that, again, we got to keep our eyes on as we move through this game. It's not something that we typically say about Kyocha. His Blaze is very, very comfortable for him. Hooligan with the 16 talent here, though, questioning if he can get the invade. Rich constantly getting the knockback, not allowing that to happen here. And now, this is, again, one of those kind of tough and interesting moments. Will BALLISTIX end up forfeiting more and just try and stall this game out, or are they going to finally answer to the fort kind of established by Gen.G with Rich?
I mean, this is the moment. You have both teams at level 16, and there's a triple altar phase coming up. Thunderstorm on Thrall allows for a lot of poke damage and also the slows to come in, but you can already tell that Tist is really thinking about survivability here on the other side, going into Stone Form on his talent right now, trying to deal with that battle that he has to play, not only against Diablo, but also against the 16 talent that has just been taken by Greymane. The extra damage on the other attacks with the percentage damage.
Hooligan gets a flip onto Sake, putting him in a bad spot, but Rich is in a better spot. He ends up throwing out the BFG, using the Tornado to be able to get the peel, but the Sundering goes on to Rich, and look at him, he's able to hold alive a little bit longer, but go for the throat, and he finds it there. BALLISTIX get the first pick, but it's not over yet.
Yeah, Thrall goes down as Li Ming gets the reset, and there was a fantastic move. Hooligan goes down as well, and Gen.G is just moving in and ripping BALLISTIX apart after the entire fight started with a kill against Hammer. Down goes Greymane, and that's the triple kill.
The synergy there by everybody coordinated, getting into the bunker, distributing out all those flamethrowers along with the Li Ming damage was enough to turn the tide. And now Magi, no ice block, even an option there. No way he's going to be able to make it out. It's only a matter of time. Reset, no mana, no problem. Magi going down here, in Gen.G now gaining that control that I was so concerned of throughout this game. It is likely to get this bottom bell tower conversion, and then they're going to have to answer to the Hammer.
In the fight, it really was all on Hammer, and the problem is they really clustered so hard to make that kill happen, and they blew everything they had to dominate Rich in that fight. But then Deckard Cain just came around, Stroll comes through, and all of a sudden they're locked in place. They're already low in HP, and as you said, the bunker was also perfectly used here on the side of Gen.G to make sure that no one else fell. We had Li Ming getting the first kill, the resets are coming in, the damage comes out, and Tist is just the beast in these situations. He dives in deep, gets the Storm Bolts, hits them hard, has by now also a significant number of stacks on his Perfect Storm. And BALLISTIX loses 4 in the process. Well, it looked like a good start into the team fight. Great play and great turnaround again by GEN.G.
And I can't help but feel like all that clumping and kind of punishment that we see coming to light now all started with those first 4 bans we got into the draft, seeing so much emphasis into the backlines and leaving to this melee-centric composition against that last pick hammer for GEN.G. BALLISTIX is able to actually sneak in this boss. Very cleverly done there.
That was a really cool move by them, especially with the vision that they had on Hammer down to the bot lane. They made that snap choice to go for the boss. And if you look at the objective, GEN.G is still behind. It's really the bot lane control and also their ability to take a lead in experience that is the biggest threat to BALLISTIX. But at least with 20 points on the core, BALLISTIX has some time available.
They do have time. But GEN.G is a team that usually seems to take what we know. My goodness, he's going to get flipped over the wall of death along with the Sundering Tisk with that Stone Skin, though. Will end up surviving here. Lornado just kind of disturbing it a little bit there. Li Ming starting the channel, and this will, in fact, be 5 shots headed back to BALLISTIX. Now setting them at 15 as those sappers being escorted down below by GEN.G, but it's going to come at the cost there of that top Belfort.
Yeah, it was definitely a great attempt here to take Muradin down, but once Muradin pops Avatar and gets the stone form in, he just survives long enough to make his way out here. They couldn't lock him into that CC chain long enough to prevent the jump. Another couple of shots are being fired here through the mercenaries, and now we're having both teams on the same amount of points on the core, both sitting on 12, but at least at the top lane.
Yeah.
The altar, the bell tower fell, and now both of the teams are looking towards level 20 when we're talking about the next altars coming up. So this is still a game where BALLISTIX is able to turn it around if they find a good fight.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a silver lining that BALLISTIX was able to convert that top half of the battleground in their favor. It's going to allow them at least to maybe, you know, if things get a little bit awkward in the later stages, maybe get a sapper split push and demand some kind of response from Blaze. But it is still by no means nearly as profitable as what we expect out of the bottom lane. Not only because you have double the sappers, but also because the rotation to be able to get the clear is just a little bit easier there. And hold off here for GEN.G, though. It's going to be a 4 versus 3 flip over onto Tisk along with the Lightning Breath. Lornado already used Jung-Ha coming in. Will he hit the Drag? He does, but it's only onto Tisk.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Tisk is really the target here. Tranquility also being popped by Magi in the backline. They're really trying to commit to that conversion at the bottom. Keep in mind that Blaze is top lane, so they really feel that this 5 versus 4 is where they have to make a stand. But Hammer alone is already pushing them back, especially since without a minion wave, that bell tower is just shelling away.
I can definitely say that that was a confusing moment when it comes to communication and play there from BALLISTIX there. The fact that you see the Tranquility popped in a situation where it's a blatant 5 versus 4, but you aren't comfortable moving in, it just felt like somebody was saying, we're going, and the other one's like, we are definitely backing out. Either way, sets BALLISTIX back a little bit here as those altars are up, and it is again a 50-50 trade. But it comes at a not-so-50-50 trade in the fact that the bell tower control here is still favoring that of GEN.G.
And I'm not going to lie, this rewind on Muradin just absolutely terrifies me when it's in the hands of Tisk. He's already a tough target to take down, but even in those fights, if he gets a double Stormbolt off, that is so terrifying. Look at that follow-up from Li Ming. Absolutely perfect player. The Stormbolt goes in, the stun is there. Li Ming with the reset, the second one coming through as Greymane falls. Here's number 3. It is an absolute sale on BALLISTIX players right now. Everybody dying on their side with the exception of Malfurion and Thrall.
There has to be a shout out there to the repulsion value that we got from Reset over that last skirmish. They got the first kill there onto the Dahaka, and Essie trying to get the escape there on the Greymane. One wave of force launching him into the backlines of GEN.G, setting up for the second kill. And it feels like that is now a massive swing here for GEN.G to find an opportunity to get a win condition. The denial of the boss earlier is something that BALLISTIX is very thankful of this point in time, because it's not going to be the double sapper boss, but it is so very close here, Kaldor. Because if all these sappers make it in, that's 1 HP left.
I'm liking the play at the top lane where we currently see Diablo anchoring the attempt to get the camp, and also that bell tower is under heavy pressure. But as you said, the bot lane, that's what we're really most concerned, because this is where now the mercenaries are starting to push through. And if those 3 are hitting home, then any of these altars can end it. To be quite fair with you, at this point already, if you grab one of those 2, it's over.
Will they be able to make it through here? It is a very tough situation for BALLISTIX.
Doesn't even matter.
They have to move top down. I mean, it's going to be essentially a all-in play here. And BALLISTIX is making the rotation. As you see, Hooligan, SC, and Magi making the transition Gen.G is going to try and bully off while somebody starts the channel. Reset now making his way down. Jung Ha actually brush talk. He will be able to get that interrupt. So this is a moment, but it's a tough one here as Gen.G goes in.
They know they have to fight, and Ballistics is going immediately for it. This is the moment where you have to win the team fight. One altar over to the opponent, and you are down. And look at Jung Ha. He falls as we see there. Kill secured by Muradin once again. It's Tis getting it, and here come the resets. Li-Ming with a kill against Diablo. No salts for him and no chance as well. SDE is on the run.
Ooh.
He's barely escaping, but Li-Ming falls, and SC is unleashed, taking down Li-Ming, nearly getting the second kill, but he falls, and so does Malfurion.
Doing his very best to be able to fight back there, but it is not enough there. With that channel, Gen.G going to take game number 1 here on Towers of Doom over Ballistics.
Gen.G takes the game and takes the lead, the 2-0 in the series now with that winner's bracket advantage that they have heading into the grand final. But Ballistics definitely showing some teeth here, fighting, coming out, getting a few kills, gaining some momentum up to the moment when they lose a big fight and that hammer is able to shift the momentum over to the blue team.
Yeah, I think for sure. I highlighted Jung Ha and SDE as having to make big plays to try and salvage what I felt was a pretty poor draft from Ballistics, actually, giving up that last pick hammer. And for a time, they did it. But ever since that bot fight where they committed everything to kill Rich and they all died for it, it's just, it fell apart more and more and more. Once you get bot control with a hammer, it's just impossible to wrestle it back. And eventually, Gen.G just starved Ballistics out of their shots.
And Stitch, I know that, you know, at this stage of your career, you're pretty successful to the point where it's like you don't have this often kind of a run through a bracket, but I know that there was a point in time where that was a common part of your daily life. And I feel like what we got in that draft, now knowing that's, again, the 9th game, 10th game in a row that we get for Ballistics on the stage, is like they were sticking to what worked for them, again, through those series before against Blossom and up against Tempest, but it felt like it was just, you know, running kind of out of resources almost, or overcorrecting to a certain extent within that draft. Do you feel like it's going to be difficult for them to find ways to respond to that now after game 1, or is it going to be a very easy technique to be able to respond back and, again, correct yourself?
I mean, we talked about, like, you know, did they think about this hammer last pick? And I'm starting to wonder if maybe they didn't. You know, the other Korean teams, even though the hammer was being banned earlier in the tournament, it was being let through a lot of these drafts. And Gen.G is the first team in a while to actually snag that. And especially as a last pick, these clutch hammers are just so hard to deal with. So I was already wondering about some of the weaknesses I felt from Ballistics draft in the last series. Maybe it's a case of fatigue. You know, you have been up on stage playing for a while, but I have to worry that maybe these drafts aren't going to go their way future in the series if they keep making these strange mistakes that they are.
I mean, personally, I have to say that I'm outside of the hammer pick and how Rich performed in it. I am just insanely impressed by how Tist was running the show there on Muradin.
Yeah.
I'm just blown away by that. Like, his early completion of the Stormbolt quest allowed him to make so many plays already in the mid-game, where you normally go up against a Muradin that isn't able to get that pierce through and doesn't have the cooldown reduction, that severely limits the amount of Stormbolts that come through in the team fight. And he was just always there, peeling, setting up the kills, especially for Li-Ming. Every time there's a Stormbolt, Diablo is eating the full Li-Ming combo and is either chunked down or falls immediately. And that was just perfect play between the two.
I agree, and I feel like a lot of that kind of goes together, really. Some of the feedback on the draft itself, and I feel like Tist's ability to get that, because the lack of lane control and the fact that they were losing a 1-4 with a Sergeant Hammer composition, I feel like automatically means there's a problem within the laning circumstance. And when that happens, that means Tist has free reign because Hooligan's constantly anchoring, trying to deal with the minion wave back on his side. Throw a couple Stormbolts at Diablo, pretty easy target to hit, and suddenly we found Tist just looking like a monster there throughout the majority of that game. It was very impressive, and again, that kind of slow tempo from Gen.G and we've seen out of the Korean teams, and then suddenly it kind of hits a breaking point, and it's really, really difficult for these teams to recover.
And also, we're coming back to, we haven't really talked about that, but at the beginning of the draft, before it started, we talked about the map choice.
Yeah.
Now we're exactly in that situation where you just had Towers of Doom, great map for Ballistics. Gen.G struggled a little bit earlier, picked it right away and said, you know what, we're going to end that right here. There's not going to be any rumors, there's no curses, nothing. We're going to dominate this right now, and what are you going to do then?
It does feel like that was kind of the moment where it's, you know, as you said, they were sitting back, you know, Sake was willing to be like, we're going to come out serious, we're going to take this 3-0, we're going to shut out the Eastern Clash, and I can't help but feel like taking Towers of Doom, willing to select it here, such a bold statement there, and the success and dominance they had, it's got to be a setback, and definitely a concern, I feel like, if you're BALLISTIX.
And also, while we are just here and we just saw Jayhao on the screen, I want to give a quick shout out to him. First of all, fantastic performance at the tournament, but I'm really happy that he doesn't stand next to me this time because I felt like a dwarf throughout the last 2 days. So finally, with two people that I can connect a little bit better. The lack of hair makes it a little bit difficult, but at least the height level is roughly there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree here. But we do have the battleground here for map number 2 between these two teams, and it's going to be Volskaya Foundry. So now, instead of sticking to the less comfortable maybe of Gen.G, again, they're very much a go-to within the region and standard Korean play.
And we're talking about Hammer again, right?
Always talking about Hammer.
Yeah, I mean, with Rich in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to wonder if, if BALLISTIX did kind of slip on that hammer, can they afford to let that happen again? I don't think so. I think knocking out Towers of Doom, like you say, very smart from Gen.G. I think it's actually very intelligent to pick a map like that where you're not super confident on it, because we know the strength of first pick, especially to these teams like Gen.G with such confidence in the draft. I think picking your weaker maps and having that second pick at the same time is actually quite nice, but getting a win on that is even better. And I think moving on to the more comfortable Volskaya, we have to definitely see BALLISTIX be very tight in the draft phase, or this could be, a very dangerous series.
Yeah, we have the draft here on Volskaya Foundry ready, though, as we're going to get it kicked off. But I think that's a great point you bring up, Snitch. It's one of those, almost stopping the bleeding techniques by picking that weaker map and giving up that first pick. And then when you end up winning it, you're just like, wait a minute here. You have so much going for your favor through the rest of the series. If momentum is very much going to be a concern, but BALLISTIX start things off with this Phoenix ban and a Gen.G response by Gen.G.
I also can't really help myself, but the entire time I'm waiting for some kind of rich special to come through and set a new meta again, as we've seen at the mid-season brawl when he started to play Hammer.
Oh, yeah.
I'm quite sure if we're actually going to get that.
We got reset with the Nazebo, but...
Yeah, true.
But we'll see if they got something else.
Not quite as dominant as we had with the richest Hammer pick, but it's definitely a bit of a touch there. When it comes to the bans, though, we are looking currently, at least on the first rotation, at the exact same pattern that we had in game number 1. Phoenix and Gen.G. I mean, Gen.G has been an absolute staple in the bans, but this time it's more about Maiev. And we've been highlighting her strength on this battleground quite a lot in previous series. And it feels that if you give that over to Gen.G, they are just going to rip you apart in every single team fight.
Maiev has been such a curious pick, I feel like, for me throughout this tournament, because it seems like she has only been willing to be displayed up into in the first rotation of bans, or it feels like she's willing to kind of make it a little bit later into the draft, or sometimes even neglected completely. It's not going to be an aggressive kind of pickup here, and I'm glad that we do not see the full backline kind of bans that we got out of game number 1. BALLISTIX will commit to the Decker Kane. What do Gen.G want here?
For me, one of the heroes that I really want to see again is Urel, to be honest. Gen.G played her a lot, and we saw them specifically with the Nubarak-Urel combo. But I feel even outside of the pairing with the Nubarak, relying on Urel again would be absolutely great for them here. They have definitely been the team at the Eastern Clash so far that had the biggest impact with her. Other teams, I feel, still were a little bit shaky in the way that she can provide peel for the backline. We've seen that on Infernal Shrines a few times, but in Gen.G's hands, she was always a staple. So I would absolutely love for them to rely on the hero for the offlane again.
Snitch, just out of curiosity, when you see the Raynor Malfurion commitment, I guess to my brain that's not anything like the Decker Kane and the Raynor. They both have that very slow kind of playstyle and how they function, but one of these is not like the other, and the fact that Malfurion is a major step back. Is committing to those two too early on, do you feel like that sets too much commitment to a slow playstyle, or there is enough tools still remaining into the draft to, again, move a different direction? I
think if the map wasn't Volskaya, I would agree. The Malfurion could be troubling, but I think on a map like Volskaya, where the focus is so much on that first objective, I think having the Malfurion to match the sustain of Decker Kane is very, very important. It's more up to Gen.G, I think, from this opening to build a stronger draft outside of this Malfurion to make sure they win that first objective, because obviously if the map starts opening up against them, the Malfurion can be very weak with so much space around them for BALLISTIX to find engages, especially with this Hanzo, finding solid arrows, which you've seen SC doing all tournament, can be very dangerous as Malfurion if the map is too open. So I think Gen.G are basically looking to take this Malfurion, win the first objective, open the map in their favor, and kind of control the game that way.
I'm already loving the way that this is now shifted. I mean, we talked about Urel a bit more on Gen.G's side because it's a hero that they mainly played more so than any other Korean team. But BALLISTIX now also prioritizing her way higher, taking her, which forces Gen.G into an Nubarak ban since they don't want to face that combo that they brought into the tournament. And then BALLISTIX reacting with just focusing on bans against the solo laners here. Leoric by no means a bad pick here, but definitely we have the priority on Blaze in all of those drafts on Volskaya so far. And with Urel, my question is just simply, who's going to be the frontliner that they choose to emphasize that? And they go for an ETC comp with Chromie.
I very much like this Chromie pick. I think this was Gen.G's final ace in the hole, and I think it's very smart Ballistics to adapt and take it. I think the Leoric's being picked here mainly to just control this Irel. A little bit of a positive matchup for Leoric playing against to control that bot lane, try and prevent her from getting any space on this first point, which, as I stressed, Gen.G are very much looking to win. So keeping this Irel kind of controlled in the bot lane I think is very important, and the Leoric pick represents that.
I also really like the combo. Like, we criticized ETC quite a bit for how easily he can be blown up, but in this setup, I really like the pick a lot, because as we highlighted before, he oftentimes is used to create space for the backline and to keep them safe. And you have now Hanzo and especially Chromie to take care of. Urel fulfilling exactly the same role here in those fights, and the sustain that the two of them bring, especially with Urel adding the armor to ETC's lower hit point pool, is fantastic for that setup. So in this particular combo, I'm actually liking it a lot. Good control, keeping Chromie safe and allowing her to get the damage in from afar.
I really love the composition as well from Ballistics. I'm going to say minus the ETC. I'm still a little bit torn on whether or not I like that peel. I know that has been the Eastern kind of clash approach and definitely has been the Eastern scene's go-to in these type of circumstances, but I just wonder, is it going to have the tools necessary? Because as I kind of highlighted, I was afraid, you know, are they committing a little bit too much to the slow? I feel like the minute that the Leoric was picked up on the other side with that denial in the Chromie, I go, they are going too slow into the team fights, and there is an ability to be able to get that punishment, but I don't know if ETC is going to be the enabler necessary to really force the hand on the opponent's side.
Now, personally, I'm still a big fan of having Muradin in that role over ETC, and Muradin was still open, but they've shown such a priority on ETC that at least in the combo with Urel, I like the ETC pick more than what we've seen before.
Yeah.
And also what I kind of enjoy is he has the peel power for Chromie. So Muradin would be a little bit more sustainable at the front. You have the good engage with the good Storm Bolt after a jump. But at least in this setup, I'm not minding the ETC as much as we did in previous series.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's one of those, it's a little bit better, but I still look at it and go, is that going to be enough? Because ETC has been made, you know, quickly into beef for a lot of this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I'm just one of those Western teams, but I would have really preferred to see a Joanna here. I think they're trying to play the ETC in the same role, but I think this kind of puts a timer on Ballistics comp. I think they need to find that poke with Chromie.
Yeah.
They need to get that poke with Hanzo before this ETC dies, because I think, you know, Gen.G have such strong pressure on this front line that I think the ETC is going to get chipped down more and more and more, and I think we're going to need to look at SDE to find those combos and secure those kills before it's too late.
I completely agree, and with how long of a sustained fight that Gen.G has, there's a lot of pressure that's going to be applied to Hooligan. But we'll figure out if he has what it takes here on the ETC, as we are going to get into Game 2 on Volskaya Foundry.
With a 1-0 game advantage from the winner's bracket, Gen.G has now the 2-0 lead over Ballistics in the grand final at the Eastern Clash. And we see them to the left of Volskaya Foundry with Sake on Malfurion, reset on Junkrat, Rich this time on Reyna, another auto attacker for him, Kyoja with Leoric on that off lane, and Tist again on Burden.
And here for Ballistics, trying to make that Eastern Clash magic. We got Deckard Cain, played by Magi, SDE on the Chromie, Urel, played by Jungha, Hooligan on ETC, and SC on Hanzo.
We've seen in previous games when Gen.G played Chromie how strong she can be on the battleground here and how powerful she can be in particular against the frontline heroes and shut them down early. The question still remaining is, of course, how impactful is SDE going to be on that hero? Can he land those skill shots and just chip away at that front line that we see from Gen.G before we are having Muradin engage with a heavy jump onto ETC? Because you mentioned it perfectly, Brad, earlier. ETC just suffers from that lower hit point pool, and with all that frontline pressure, there's always the chance that he gets taken out.
Yeah, he used to be the go-to sustained teamfight-oriented warrior. Just through the long run, you know, some of the nerfs kind of coming on the line, and some of the impact to Johanna's relevance within the meta, it just feels like she is very much that kind of standout. But I'm a little bit torn because I think, you know, Snitch even highlighted it the best in the fact that it's like, it's weird on the fact that it's not always on Hooligan's shoulders, because if SDE can just like raw snipe something properly, then Hooligan has a lot more breathing room and area that he can make things happen. And so I don't know if I look at this as much as Hooligan, you have to play safe, or if I go SDE, you need to play out of your mind this round.
I mean, talking about playing out of your mind, we have Timely Surprise taken on level 4 here. An adjustment already. So on level 1, the Mounting Sands taken immediately by Chromie. Definitely, we have seen a lot of different Chromie builds in this tournament, actually. Dragon's Breath as a huge focus, and now this adjustment from BALLISTIX as we're seeing the fight over the healing bus. And oh my god, Deckard with a fantastic setup. The kill against Tist. Can they secure a second against Rich?
They get the trap actually under reset, and then they throw the Chromie damage down. 2 kills for nothing here. BALLISTIX with a great invade there over the support camp and gaining now a lot of control here on the battleground. And that is the timer and questions that we had at hand, and I feel like SDE is up to answer the call. My goodness, the damage there over that skirmish.
It definitely looks like it. He wants to go for the fast stacking here at this point with the Mounting Sands on level 1, and he currently looks at 19 stacks after this engage. Not too shabby for 2 minutes into the game. Looking good there. The Timely Surprise.
No Wraith Walk. He's going to get ganked. Kyoja has this. has the support camp. That was a huge misstep there. Wraith Walk up in about 4 seconds. He's going to be just in range, but without the Drain Hope, I don't think he can survive.
I mean, even if he survives.
Oh my.
I mean, even with that move and him surviving, to be quite frank, the main thing that you wanted to get out of this is bait out the healing pulse.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they achieved there.
Mission accomplished for BALLISTIX, and something that is absolutely a problem if SDE is making a rain the same way he was over that support camp earlier. We'll find out as we are now 10 seconds away from control point A. A pretty big momentum, or at least positional advantage, at least for now, for BALLISTIX, as Gen.G is still concerned there with the turret.
SDE, I mean, look at it. Chromie again, going full 80 RD style here with a Chrono Sickness on level 7 after the earlier level 4 here. The Timely Surprise with the cooldown resets when the time traps are triggered. Now we have the Chrono Sickness, more cooldown reduction here as well, and the additional slow. It's all about control at this point from BALLISTIX' point of view, and this is really difficult for Gen.G to engage on. And that actually makes ETC so much safer and eliminates one of those weaknesses that we highlighted earlier.
It does, as long as the traps are going to be very effective here. Leo has spent his rotation down to bottom to get a little bit of clear, while Gen.G is still accumulating quite a bit of that percentage. Now going to be able to anchor off and deny a lot of experience down below. This means BALLISTIX need to do something here over this control point.
And Chromie sitting at 30 stacks already. With a level 1 talent with the Mounting Sands, he is really getting those stacks in right now. Great job by SDE so far, but of course we're still talking about the first objective. And at this point, Gen.G is holding the advantage. They hold the point, and they already have a great position here, but BALLISTIX is starting to push forward.
They need to make something happen without Leoric there, and they get the damage in onto Rich, and again, SDE ends up hitting the skill shots and getting the pick off here. They need to zone off if they're going to get some of this percentage back. Reset, it will be able to make it past that gate before the hammer comes in. Turret's going to be thrown down, and now BALLISTIX with the first point of control.
I am loving what I'm seeing there. BALLISTIX, after losing game number 1, a map where they thought, okay, we have the upper hand here, they come out on Volskaya absolutely not impressed by what Gen.G did so far, and they're just flat out stating, we are here to win this. We are not trying to just play around with you boys, and they're looking great. 3 kills against 0. Great adjustments on Chromie to make up for some of the weaknesses that they perceived at their own front line. And they're looking at a fantastic setup for the first objective now.
I agree with you. And it's so much so that now that we've seen so many traps be high impact, hold up, look at that flank there from Kyoja. Hooligan maybe in a bad spot. Penetrating around does come through. No power slide commitment yet as Kyoja does end up landing that Drain Hope. He hits another trap. Chromie damage comes through. Wraith Walk is there, and he will be able to escape, but absolutely chunked on that retreat.
And the entire time...
SDE. He got flipped over by the concussion mine. He's not going to be able to make it out this time, and that is a kill now. Gen.G able to get that kill and should be able to snowball this control point here as they still have 93% into their favor.
Eliminating Chromie was exactly what they needed here. Gen.G again finding the one opportunity that they needed. The Stormball comes in. Tist once again setting it up to take Magi down. Help is on the way, and they can barely keep Deckard Cain alive here. The Punisher, the Protector, has been taken, though.
The root will be dodged there by
Great
SE, but
job.
if that had landed, that would have been one dead SE. Concussion mine number 2 launched there by Reset, constantly displacing the members of BALLISTIX, but now the focus is going to be here to the mid-front wall. for Gen.G here with the Protector. We'll see where they want to make the rotation here afterwards, showing a bit of interest towards bottom.
The kill against Chromie was actually at the perfect time for Gen.G because it was just about to hit the level 8, so to say the level 10 for Chromie, and we have the attempt to exploit the lack of a cleanse on the other side. If that comes through as they're still fighting for the Protector, that could have been used to set up a potential kill here again. But right now, BALLISTIX in a defensive position as Gen.G is pushing through that mid lane, which also means that the top lane is not going to be prepped by Gen.G for the second objective, though.
Yeah, it's not going to be prepped as well, but with the 10 spike, they can pre-prep it, is I feel like the thought process here,
true.
right? It's such a big window that it's like, well, it really doesn't matter how good our Protector is because you cannot handle our heroics here. But one thing that I think that we have to be keeping our eyes on with how impactful, not only with the kind of talent choices SD has been on that Chromie time traps, and how many Gen.G has actually hit over that fight. I want to bring to light that I feel like Sake needs to just be given a little bit of defense, somebody stand around him a little bit longer, because he's one of the best to be able to get the reveal with that Moonfire onto those traps. Just give him a little bit of time, throw out a couple rotations of very common areas, and suddenly it won't be as high-risk decisions if Gen.G wants to try and move forward.
Even with the lead that we have for Gen.G, the one thing that I'm really looking for is how is Chromie going to run into the mid and late game? Because we highlighted how this build and the play of SD has allowed him to get a significant amount of stacks in the early game. And right now he's sitting at 42. So if he can keep that up with the same pace, and he is going to become an absolute menace towards that late game. And this is definitely something that might be a bit of a linchpin in the plans of Gen.G towards the later stages of this match.
Do we think we're going to get the mosh pit? Or do we think we're going to get the stage dive? I feel like the stage dive might be an answer if they're worried about that really late game split pressure, but more, I would like the mosh pit more than either one of those. The setup with the stay a while and listen combos, just looking for the temporal loop, and then whenever most people respond to that, they kind of funnel in and then see that power slide through. But so far, Hooligan hasn't pulled the trigger, at least not quite yet.
I mean, even for rotations later on, a one-man mosh pit is nothing to frown upon if you can get that kill. And with setting yourself up for the Chromie damage is definitely something you can pull off. Don't forget the Hanzo arrow as well. If that's being used as a setup or as a follow-up, that can definitely do a lot of work here. Also, I can already hear Trixler from here. Bye-bye on level 13. I'm never going to hear the end of it.
Yeah, I'm a little sad. I'm not going to lie here. Bye-bye will allow the easy escape, though. Hold on. Somebody who's going to need that escape, maybe Zheng-Ha, getting a full drain hope, taking a couple heals and pots there from Magi. Gen.G is going to be rounding the 13 talents here inevitably before control point B is online, meaning that BALLISTIX needs to find a situation where they make a macro decision or at least force a team fight here before that window happens. And we see the ETC down below, I feel like that says it's a stage dive play right now, or it's very much going to be the mosh pit slow play, and we're looking for a fight maybe at 16 into 16, and I feel like BALLISTIX is a little bit optimistic if they think that's going to happen.
Also, when we're talking about optimism, that last attempt here to go for Muradin was also maybe a little bit faster on the trigger button here. No chance to even remotely take Muradin down in this case. We're talking about level 13 talents again, though, in 20 seconds until we're having the control point activate. That gives BALLISTIX a bit more time to try and get the experience here, but Gen.G should still get the better start into it. I mean, we're frowning a little bit upon the bye-bye choice, but to be quite honest with you, with displacements coming in, also Leori going straight for the Entomb here, if he can set that up, bye-bye can definitely put you to safety. Personally, would have still preferred them to go into the stasis, but it's at least a choice that you can make good arguments for.
We just see a full rotation for 4 members of BALLISTIX to bottom lane here, knowing that they're still needing the 13 talents here. They're not going to gain too much, though, as Kyoja, one of the best defenders in these type of situations, not too threatened in any way, shape, or form. But because BALLISTIX hasn't made the rotation up, I mean, we're going to see a 99% kind of all-in. The support camp is now actually going to be invaded here, picked up by Tist.
Mulligan goes in a bit late, drops the healing pulse immediately. Oh, one of them is being dropped here. They still hold on to one more. 13 talents in the hands now of BALLISTIX as they are starting to make the rotation towards the top lane. Leoric still holding bottom for an additional wave, so that would allow BALLISTIX to take the control.
I think Gen.G maybe would have liked a little bit more percentage in this type of situation for Leoric to display himself on bottom, but eventually likely will make the transition up. If not, Junkrat should join with Leo for a double split pressure opportunity in that bottom lane. We'll see what they end up wanting to do here as they still are holding off BALLISTIX from gaining anything. The conveyor belt escape for Tis is going to be there. Knockback is there from Hooligan. No power slide pulled yet.
And Leoric still at the bot lane the entire time. That's a huge amount of pressure on the bottom fort. And also it helps, of course, with the third objective already. Eliminating the fountain there is huge. And denying the experience to BALLISTIX shows also level 14, nearly 15 against 13. Gen.G has really set themselves up for an early level 16. If they get this protector, BALLISTIX is going to be in a huge amount of trouble.
Yeah, it's going to be a terrible position for them to be in. Tis, though, had to end up burning that Dwarf Toss to get out of there. SDE lands a nice little bit of Sandblast onto reset. Everybody has made their way here up towards the top lane, and look at the Riptire already set out. Is that going to be committed to? We'll find out. Yeah, a lot of damage there onto SC.
Yeah, immediately healed up though within a second. GEN.G definitely coming through for his boys here. Zhongha entering the point as they are trying to invade again. And in the back line, Reset barely surviving. Saka helping out massively with that. The Stale Island get listen. They're starting to move in here, but Magi is so low and he falls first. GEN.G is down. Can they take Tis? They set him up and they take the Dwarf apart.
Yeah, they do a good job there, able to get the pick off there for a moment. A little bit of anti-synergy as Hooligan's knockback actually moved from the Dwarf Toss away from SDE's damage, but they hold their own there. Leo will secure the rest of that protector, and now Gen.G have a two-man protector for themselves. They are going to be rounding the 16 talent tier significantly before BALLISTIX, and the window that you were talking about, the fear you kind of had before, it's not exactly the circumstance, but it's pretty darn close here.
Yeah, with this, they should, first of all, they should get the 40 and then the level 16 and then even snowball it further. But without Murid in there, we are currently seeing BALLISTIX at least shelling away against the Protector, trying to drop the HP as fast as they can. It could be worse. It definitely could be. But now there's level 16, and it just depends on how much can Gen.G now do with that. Junkrat is still at the bottom. Murder on the way. Very little value out of the Protector so far for Gen.G.
Well, once they get the 5-man unit, I feel like they're going to be able to make a lot happen here. The question is, do they go for the key front wall or instead another fort down below? As we see the trap actually going to get hit there. SE trying to make his way out. We see the Ardent Defender, but that's just going to be body blocked to death. And Zhongha with no, mana available. It is just a matter of time here until his fate is sealed. 2 members down. Gen.G still 20 seconds remaining here on the Protector, and they make their way bot.
And this is one of those moments where BALLISTIX had actually a really good defense going for them, but then losing one and more or less suiciding the second as Urel jumps in for an attempt at saving it makes it just worse, because now the second fort falls, and this is full map control for Gen.G. Now on the bright side, BALLISTIX is half a level behind from level 16, so they can get that level and they should be able to force another fight here, but they really need to get something done. We have 69 stacks on the side of Chromie by now, so that's at least increasing the damage there, but they need to get kills after level 16 and really need to get something going here, because Gen.G is currently establishing full map control.
And that last skirmish wasn't really necessarily an error forced, I feel like, by Gen.G. It was a bit more panic from the members of BALLISTIX. With Magi on that Stay a While and Listen, I feel like SDE had a pretty clever attempt trying to get the Temporal Loop one-shot onto Reset. It set him down to about 5% of his maximum HP, but once Magi went in for the follow-up, he heavily neglected his own positioning. Maybe a conveyor belt use into a flank with that would have been a bit easier, but either way, you know, if Magi finds a way to kind of restrain his positioning and still have a impactful Stay a While and Listen, maybe BALLISTIX have a better late-game team fight than we're giving them credit, especially with SDE just, you know, it's pretty much lining them up. It's open season whenever you got that Stay a While as Chromie.
Yeah, also the Quantum Overdrive on Chromie is something that they're trying to use now to confirm these kills and to set this up. Once again, the Entomb being used here, but doesn't find the value. It was well done by BALLISTIX. 16 talents are there. Urel is on the way, but Hooligan is already low. And Kyojo was thinking about it, but they're moving away from this position, at least for now. Gen.G is happy to stall this out and get level 20 talents. They're playing the safe game here. They know, of course, that if they have the 2-0 lead in the series already, if they play this safe and they move towards level 20, they have a really good shot of setting themselves ahead so far that it's just match point after match point from here on out. And BALLISTIX, they need to be aggressive. They need to be the ones to force a play here, and that's what they're trying to do down here.
Yeah, Leoric is actually getting a huge collapse, though. 9 seconds on the Entomb if they would like to try and force that. Got to be a bit more patient there and not getting the all-in. And as you said, I mean, understandably so. There is no reason for Gen.G to really need to force anything. Yeah. All the responsibility of that is on the shoulders of BALLISTIX.
And the level 20 for Gen.G just terrifies me.
I mean,
Buried
Buried
Alive
Alive actually makes me like just cry on the inside anytime I see it. It is such a, hey, do you enjoy playing Heroes of the Storm? How do you feel not playing Heroes of the Storm? Because that is what that button does.
Now, then again, when we have level 18 coming in, considering Chromie's build, the Endoral Anomaly that we pretty much expect here at this point should really give her a massive, massive power spike when it comes to zone control. So if they somehow can close that experience gap at least a little bit, Chromie might be the difference.
GEN.G kind of in an island after that leap. No Ardent Defender. It's going to be used, but that's last second. Then Hooligan getting flipped over with that concussion mine.
But you have to admire how he juked out GEN.G.
I mean,
that little tick to the side and the immediate move into the middle, but of course a massive, massive cooldown burn now on URL.
that is a major misstep for the weight in this type of situation within this series. You know, almost as much as the APOC kind of conundrum with the Void Prison we had in the last series here. It's going to lead to GEN.G getting that 20 spike, getting the Protector pretty much for free, knowing that there's no Ardent Defender. That is a major cooldown setback.
Here's the thing though.
GEN.G's prepping bot lane.
With the Endoral Anomaly that we are already seeing for Chromie and her trying to set up the bot lane, they have an honest chance at defending. The level 20 is though what it comes down to, but if they can slow this down and really just get that Protector into trap after trap, they have a chance of slowing this down. And if you defend this, then you are back in the game. You might lose your key, but if you can hold on to that core, you have a chance to force a fight later on. Chromie still keeps stacking. The Endoral Anomaly is great for her with the time dread build that we've seen. It's all about the defense.
That and maybe if Sake, you know, kind of has his time trap sniffer on this time, you know, able to hit the Moonfires and be able to buy a bit of room there. I do think that is one of the areas that we can see GEN.G respond to this build from Ballistics, but there hasn't been too much focus into it, and without, you know, getting to the keep front wall itself, the predictability of those traps is going to be very, very limited. GEN.G securing as much experience as he can before he has to retreat and deal with the Punisher, or Protector, excuse me, here from GEN.G.
And they don't have 20.
Yeah, and now we're going to see it march here, looking to break the base up on to Ballistics. Time trap number 1. There's a rotation. And
they get at least the stacks for Chromie, but is it going to be enough? Here comes the Protector. They're trying to end the game here. GEN.G, that is. Level 19, nearly 20 for Ballistics, but it is not there yet. Can the mosh pit be found? The arrow on Hanzo. Here comes the Buried Alive, and Deckard is moving out of it. So far, they're staying alive here.
End up getting the time trap, which really ends up keeping him alive. Kyoja with the Wraith Walk getting the debuff through with that Stormbolt landing, though. SDE is going to drop there. No ability to say bye-bye to that one. Magi used the stay a while and listen, but not enough patience being displayed. Protector now moving on to the core.
And that's the one you couldn't lose here. Once again, they're trying for the defense here. The Protector is already losing hit point, but he's not the only one. The core is dropping at this point. Here comes the kill against the Lorik. Is that going to be enough? They're trying to go for the second here in the backline. Rich is low, and we're seeing GEN.G jumping indeed. The core holds for now, but Urel falls, and so does Deckard Cain. Hanzo explodes as GEN.G is moving in for another victory.
GEN.G taking the adaptation of the draft there, even with the clever Chromie pick of Ballistics. But they respond throughout minutes 1 up until 19 here and take a lead in this series 3-0. Now 1 game away from earning the only title they do not have for themselves, an Eastern Clash champion.
And so far it's